Hi, this is Michael with Sac City Property Management, and I wanted to continue on with the discussion we had on Mr. Landlord this weekend about how we track our financial transactions for our property management efforts. So this is what I've got. Let me go ahead and show you, and I'll send you this Word document here with a couple links on it. The first one I have is a link to where I've uploaded the application. Just control and click that to download it, and let's give that a second to bring it up. Okay, as this is a free account, we have to pay for it by watching their advertising for a couple seconds. So let's go ahead and let that go as it works. Okay, so let's click regular download. And we've got to wait a couple more seconds for advertising so they can get their 16 cents a day from us, or we can just wait. So let's hang on a second. Okay, once that's downloaded, let's go ahead and open it and extract the file. So let's go ahead and extract all files, and let's go ahead and browse for a folder to put in. And I like to put mine close to the root directory so that way the application is actually a little bit faster. And I've created an empty directory here called demo. So let's go ahead and then extract it to there. Okay, once the files are extracted, we have a folder here under Demo, PropMgr. If we open that up, I've got two directories. One is for data, one is for the application. On the data directory, I have a blank data, which has nothing in it. It's just set up with the structure. And then I have the sample data, which has fictitious transactions for the year. And then I've got a backup of the data file as well, BU. So let's go ahead and jump back up, and then let's look at the application. Here's the application folder. I've got a README document. I've got my main application, which is what I use, and it's got quite a number of features that are not in the demo that I'm offering to give away for free. I've got a pamphlet which shows some of the functions of the application, and then I have a demo, which is a free application that you're welcome to pass around and give out to anybody else. So that's there. So let's go ahead and open up the demo, and I'll have a YouTube video of my application if anybody's interested in upgrading. And both of these use the same data file, so it's a seamless transition from the free version to a pay version. So let's open up the demo. You have a security warning. Click OK. And then we just need to go ahead and change the data file, and let's browse for the data file. And Michael, demo, PropMgr, there was a data, sample data, and let's just use that backup one so we don't screw up our data file. And connect the files, and that's just going to take a second, so hang on. Okay, once the files are connected, a login button pops up, and then we can go ahead and log in. And I've got these users set up in there, and then for the moment I have just their password coming up automatically, which is set as the name, and then we can log in. And here we are into the main menu of that. I've got my tenant and contact management up in this corner. I've got my setup stuff over in this corner. Rent roll, individual tenant charges, rents due, invoice list. Here's my expenses over here. Unapplied funds if a tenant has a credit. Here's a list of all your payments you received. Here's how you put in a payment. Make a new deposit. Here's a list of all your deposits. Here's your account balances. Here's your reports. So kind of got most of the bases covered. Let's go ahead and look at the rents due at the moment. And so quite a bit. So the September rents have been entered but not posted yet. So and we can filter this by anything we want to. So let's say we want to see as of August 15th who still has stuff due, and we can just put in a date and filter it as $14,000 there. So okay, so let's go ahead and close that. And if we want to run a rent roll for any tenant, it's this easy. Just pick a date. Say the 14th. Well, no, let's go ahead and say September 1st. Set a date for it, run the rent roll, and done. So that's how you run a rent roll. If you want to do just an individual charge, you want to run a late fee, all you've got to do is select the tenant, and let's say Joe Tenant, and we want to do it comes up automatically assuming tenant rent, and brings up his rent, pulls up his rent from the data file. If you want to do a late fee, all you got to do is say late fee, and it's going to bring up what his contractual late fee amount is, and then we can set the note. And so all we got to do is set the note, and that writes it for us, and then we can create an invoice. And then down here we have in gray a notice that the file's been processed. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's go ahead and receive a payment from, that was Joe Tenant. So and then just go down Joe Tenant, and he gives us a check. And let's say he gives us $1,100, just making up a number. We got the check today, and it was actually written on the 2nd, and the check number is there. And then we need to just put in a quick note, payment Joe Tenant rent and fees, and I'll automate this later. I have it automated on mine, but this is a quick demo that I threw together for you. So let's save the record. And then what it does is once it's saved, it opens up the next screen down here, which is where the tenant invoices are. And you'll notice when I click on this, it's going to show just the invoices for that tenant, so you cannot apply funds to the wrong account. So let's go ahead and select his rent. So we'll pay a rent, and we have a credit of $175, and we can pay there, and now he still has a credit of $125 after paying 2 late fees. So let's pay those invoices. It's going to say it's not in balance because we had a $125 credit, and that's okay. So we'll save that and we'll close it. Okay, he still had a credit, but he had open invoices. So let's go to unapplied funds, and it'll show Joe Tenant here, and he's got 125 credit. So let's go ahead and repost that again. Brings up all the information. And then all we got to do is we can go ahead and pay his, we'll go ahead and do it on his rent. So he still has a balance due on his rent of $800, and pay that invoice and then close. So let's go ahead and close that. So we can handle prepayments, late fees, all of that really set up well. And then here's the invoice list. And we want to, and let's just look at Joe Tenant, since that's who we're talking about right now. So where's he at? Oh, Joe Tenant right there, and then we can filter. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that on this form. Okay, so let's go over to reports, and we can do it this way. We can look at Joe Tenant, and we can get his tenant balance. And here it is. It's 2 pages. But here's a list of all his charges and his payments, and it shows that he owes us $825 on account for his transactions for the year, which is a late fee, and that $800 that's still due. So anyways, way cool that we can get that information quickly. Let's close that. Close that. We did a tenant charge. Let's go ahead and do an expense real quick. So let's say we're going to do it to Home Depot, and you can just type in the information instead of going through the list, and it once it's there to bring it up. Project, let's say it's Joe Tenant again, which was 22, and transaction date today, and pick an account for it. And let's say it was out of our checking account, and $500. And a transaction number, and let's just say it was materials. We bought a new stove. Okay, and then once that's there, we can save the record and close it, and we're good. So we can look at all the expenses as well. So we can go to expenses, and we can select the date and filter it, reverse filter, and here's that transaction for the new stove, and it's right there. And if you double click on it, you can bring up the expense. So right there. So and then you can also filter this by any of the properties if you want to know how much you've spent on that property for the year. And we can filter it by date as well. So let's just say since the 1st of May to today, how much have we spent on that property? And we've bought a new stove. So let's go ahead and clear that, and see if we can get some more. Let's try it for the year. Okay, so for the full year, it's been $1,900 of materials for that, so way cool. We can clear that again, and if we just want to see how much we've spent on, let's not do that one, on materials for that, all we got to do is drop down materials, and we can filter that. And just a stove on materials so far, so not bad. So we can track anything very easily that way. Okay, and then we have our setup here where we can set up accounts, set up users. There's a company, tenant, property, units. So anyways, this is something real quick that I threw together over the last couple days to address how individual landlords are doing it, and my application's more significant, and I'll give you a link to a YouTube video on how to do that. But this is working for me, and hopefully you can get some value out of it, and feel free to share the demo. It's welcome. I'll do some work on it over the weekend and post up a cleaner version, and if you find any problems, please let me know. Thank you very much. Bye bye.